They thought it was just internet noise. Another fleeting rap-adjacent family controversy destined to trend for 48 hours, spark a few memes, then vanish into the algorithm's graveyard. But what started as casual chatter rapidly escalated into something darker, something unavoidable. By the time the night had fallen, Atlanta's usually quiet streets were pierced by the insistent wail of an ambulance, red lights cutting through the darkness like ominous warning signals. Inside that vehicle, King Harris, son of hip-hop heavyweight T.I., reportedly unconscious, battered from a brutal late-night altercation. From the outset, insiders weren't framing it as random street violence. Every detail, every timing, every report suggested calculation, deliberate intent, a message delivered not with words alone, but with fists, strategy, and shadows. Within minutes of the first leaks hitting group chats, private stories, and early social feeds, one name began echoing in hushed tones across platforms: 50 Cent. No official charges, no confirmed statements from law enforcement, no verified declaration from any camp, just whispers. And in hip-hop, whispers have a velocity that surpasses facts. They move faster, mutate, and leave a trail of speculation in their wake. Witnesses described multiple men approaching King's vehicle in a coordinated fashion, almost military in precision. It wasn't a chaotic bar fight, not a spur-of-the-moment clash. It was a setup. One chilling phrase reportedly cut through the night before the violence erupted: "Tell your daddy." At that moment, the altercation stopped feeling like a fight and started feeling like a warning shot. Hours later, cameras caught T.I. outside the hospital, eyes bloodshot, jaw locked, fighting back tears. The unflappable performer, a man renowned for his composure on stage and in interviews, now visibly cracked. A father first, a rapper second. Then came the cryptic post from someone within 50 Cent's circle, a vague image or a fleeting caption that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. But screenshots, as we know, are forever. The internet fractured almost immediately. Fans picked sides. Industry insiders went silent. Because if this was connected, even indirectly, it had the potential to ignite one of the most volatile standoffs in hip-hop since the days of East Coast-West Coast tension. Was it retaliation, coincidence, or something far larger that no one wanted to admit on record? If King Harris truly knows who was behind the attack, the next move wouldn't be subtle. This story, as chilling as the night it unfolded, wasn't ending, it was just beginning. To understand the explosion of this incident, the narrative must rewind. This wasn't born in a single parking lot on a single night. It was a tension that had been simmering for months, fueled by legacies, egos, and the unforgiving lens of social media. King Harris grew up in front of cameras, the son of T.I., heir to an Atlanta empire built on street anthems, trap music, and unapologetic swagger. Every social media post, every flex, every clapback was dissected, discussed, and debated. Some interpreted confidence, others saw entitlement. But no one could deny that King never backed down from speaking his mind. Over the past year, his online presence became louder, more confrontational. He responded to critics, addressed rumors head-on, defended his family without filter. What began as self-defense evolved into full-throated provocation, and louder voices attract louder enemies. Enter 50 Cent, master of psychological warfare in the digital era. Not just a rapper, a businessman, media mogul, and master troll. When 50 posts, the world listens. When he jokes, careers shift. When he stays silent, the speculation intensifies. Unlike King, whose youth allowed for reckless boldness, 50 Cent operates strategically. Every move, every public silence, every post or deletion serves a purpose. The two camps had never openly clashed, yet the friction was palpable. Subtle shade in interviews, cryptic comments under blog posts, indirect jabs fans decoded instantly. Nothing explosive, yet the tension grew, the spark that lit the fire, a proposed versus battle between T.I. and 50 Cent. Publicly hyped by T.I., 50 ultimately backed out, dismissing the idea entirely while simultaneously flipping the narrative. Memes emerged, Tiny Harris was dragged into online mockery, and old allegations resurfaced. The online feud escalated rapidly. Diss tracks followed, from T.I., then from his sons, Damani and King. King went nuclear. He posted old court footage tied to 50 Cent's past assault case, wore a shirt featuring 50's late mother in a way that many considered provocative, too far. T.I. later admitted regret over letting his son escalate matters, recognizing that personal attacks had crossed lines, inflicting harm rather than achieving closure. 50 responded with surface-level silence, but insiders say his network maintained pressure through subtle, behind-the-scenes maneuvers, deleted posts, vague warnings, and a digital presence that left imagination to fill in the blanks. Private conversations reportedly occurred months before the incident. No threats, not overtly, but suggestions were clear. Certain lines shouldn't be crossed publicly. King, fearless and outspoken, allegedly responded in a live stream, "I'm not ducking nobody." At the time, it sounded like bravado. In hindsight, it was foreshadowing. T.I. reportedly tried to de-escalate behind the scenes, advising his son to move smarter. Certain figures operate on a different level, sources say he warned. 50 Cent's history is long, filled with calculated responses, rarely emotional, always strategic. When tension builds around him, the outcomes aren't predictable. Yet no verified public record exists of direct threats between King and 50. No smoking gun DMs, no recorded calls. That murkiness made everything feel inevitable, and yet unprovable. Hip-hop thrives on perception. When two powerful legacies collide, Harris Wade in Atlanta, G-Unit influence globally, comparisons ignite. Respect is tested, egos bruise. Young voices sometimes enter arenas governed by older rules, unwritten but enforced. Fans began spotting patterns. King's responses to mockery involving 50's circle, screenshots circulating, analyzed comments, small moments that seemed disconnected until the ambulance lights connected them. Even without legal proof, perception alone can create reality. And right now, that reality is volatile, a generational clash. A father who built an empire in both the streets and studios, a mogul who mastered media and mind games, and a son caught in crossfire, his reputation and safety under scrutiny. Was King proving something, testing waters too deep for his experience? Or was he simply the victim of unrelated street violence, one that the internet stitched into a bigger narrative? The truth remains unclear, but the emotional toll is visible. T.I. isn't a rapper here, he's a father, and fathers see things differently. Protection, warnings, crossed lines. They perceive them in ways fans never will. Meanwhile, 50's brand relies on strength, control, and the appearance of invulnerability. His silence is deafening. If this had nothing to do with him, why not shut the narrative down immediately? If it did, even tangentially, the play is always the same. Silence, strategy, patience. The industry split quickly into two camps, coincidence amplified by social media hysteria or simmering tension finally boiling over. Until official information is released, a police report, statement, or arrest, both remain plausible. But one thing is undeniable: this didn't feel random. It felt layered, loaded, and premeditated. That night began ordinary. King reportedly wasn't wilding out in a club or public venue. He left a private, low-key gathering with a tight circle. Dim lighting, minimal cameras, the kind of spot that feels secure, but something felt off. A bystander later recalled a black SUV idling unusually close to the exit. Engine running, tinted windows, no one exiting, just waiting. King stepped out. Movement. Two men emerged from the SUV in sync. A third approached from the opposite side, seemingly positioned in advance. 3 angles, 1 target. It started verbal. "Heard you've been loud online. You don't know who you're talking to." Tension crackled. No fists yet. Then one man allegedly dropped the line, "This ain't the internet." Push, stumble, punch, chaos, phones dropped, shouts, concrete impact. Metallic object swings, uncertain whether tool or weapon. In under 30 seconds, King was down. Blood, disorientation, witnesses scattering. Paramedics arrived quickly. A nearby storefront camera captured fragments, faces blurry but the coordination unmistakable. One man signaled with a hand gesture prior to contact. Not panic, not improvisation. Signal. That detail shifted the interpretation from spontaneous street fight to deliberate planning. Internet sleuths froze frames, enhanced shadows, matched clothing to past events. A blurred figure circulated, photographed alongside extended members of 50's network. Not 50 himself, not direct staff, but adjacent enough to fuel speculation. The clip was copyright claimed and removed. Too late, screenshots spread like wildfire. At the hospital, T.I.'s emotions boiled over. He demanded security footage, kept asking who sent them, not who hit him, but who sent them. The choice of words carried weight. To him, this wasn't random street violence. It felt orchestrated, directed, personal. Then a bombshell. An anonymous insider claimed that King briefly regained awareness during treatment and said 3 words. "I know him," singular, him, meaning at least one attacker was familiar. Recognition converted chaos into targeted payback. Hours later, a cryptic Instagram story surfaced, allegedly from someone in 50 Cent's network. Text, "Energy get returned," disappeared in minute. Screenshots survived. Coincidence, digital slip, deliberate signal. No evidence directly linked 50 himself, but proximity alone in hip-hop feuds fuels endless narratives. Law enforcement allegedly confirmed. No weapon recovered. King's injuries, including unconsciousness and visible trauma, were likely inflicted through multiple assailants using hands, feet, or numbers rather than a single object. The coordination theory strengthened. 3-on-1 doesn't happen by accident. It sends a message. The phrase "tell your daddy" reportedly echoed repeatedly during the attack. It wasn't trash talk. It was generational venom, a reminder that online bravado carries offline consequences. 50 Cent stayed publicly silent. Insiders say his team went into containment mode. No comments, no interviews, no trolling. For a man whose empire thrives on confrontation, such restraint is strategic. T.I., meanwhile, didn't wait for police alone. Private investigators were reportedly contacted within 24 hours, not just official channels but outside eyes. If this were random street violence, why invest in private intel? The decision amplified speculation. The internet split instantly. One side screamed conspiracy, coordinated hit, recognition, deleted posts, energy returned. The other screamed defamation, no proof, guilt by association. In high-profile hip-hop disputes, association alone can be weaponized as effectively as evidence. A blog later claimed leaked texts between attackers referenced green light energy. Unverified, unconfirmed, but the phrase exploded online. Green light implies approval, permission, a go-ahead. The natural question, from whom? Suddenly, a street fight became a potential conspiracy. Public imagination ran wild even as legal reality stayed gray. Legally, nothing has been confirmed. No arrests, no charges, no named suspects. Yet emotionally, many act as if guilt is proven. The collision of public certainty and legal ambiguity creates chaos almost guaranteed. King is reportedly recovering physically, but the emotional and reputational scars, being attacked, then entangled in a narrative involving one of hip-hop's most influential figures, will linger far longer. The weight of perception is crushing. Both camps, both fathers, both brands were calculating their next moves with surgical precision. In the world of hip-hop, reputation is currency and any misstep can be fatal. If direct accusations were thrown without ironclad proof, defamation lawsuits would loom as a serious threat. Yet if evidence ever surfaced, footage, witness statements, messages, the situation could explode into something far more consequential. This was the peak of tension, clarity absent, stakes sky-high. The first real twist wasn't merely the coordination, it was the recognition. I know him. If those 3 words were true, Someone in proximity to power could now be exposed. And once proximity becomes a documented connection, the narrative flips entirely. Suddenly, what seemed like an isolated street incident transforms into a story with potentially massive ramifications. By sunrise, the incident had become a wildfire across the internet. Clips circulated on TikTok, slowed frame by frame, dissected for clues. Twitter threads mapped out timelines, connecting months-old live streams to deleted posts, small interactions now framed as potential precursors. Instagram blogs ran side-by-side comparisons, blurry surveillance footage alongside old event photos of people loosely tied to 50 Cent's extended circle. Confirmation was absent. But in the court of public opinion, parallels are often enough. Within hours, #Pray for King trended not just in Atlanta but nationwide. Fans flooded T.I.'s latest posts with support threaded with accusation, "Stay strong. We know who's behind it. Protect your family." Comment sections became virtual battlegrounds. On the other side of the internet, 50 Cent supporters pushed back just as fiercely, "Show proof. Stop connecting dots that don't exist." This is reckless clout chasing. Two camps, two realities, each convinced they held the ultimate truth. Then the story escalated. A prominent hip-hop blogger went live, claiming to have spoken directly to someone close to the investigation. They hinted at new developments, careful not to drop specifics, a classic tease. The stream drew thousands, chat exploding with speculation. Was more footage coming? Were names about to drop? Or was it just smoke? With every minute of silence from official sources, the digital hysteria intensified. Every deleted post, every vague caption, every unverified leak became amplified. In hip-hop, perception often trumps fact, and right now, perception was winning. T.I. built his legacy on street credibility and family loyalty. 50 Cent built his on dominance, strategy, and never showing weakness. King, a young man caught between those forces, became collateral in a war that officially didn't exist. If this incident was truly unreliable, tied to the ongoing feud, the narrative might have died eventually. But if even a thread of connection existed, the fallout could reshape alliances, damage brands, and force public reckonings. King's words, "I know him," lingered like a ghost. If proven, they signaled betrayal from someone closer than anyone expected. If disproven, they would become just another rumor in an endless cycle. Either way, trust was fractured, silence became strategic, and the next move, whatever it was, would not be quiet. This wasn't over, it was paused, waiting for the next leak, the next screenshot, the next public statement. In hip-hop, when legacies collide and pride is involved, stories rarely fade, they evolve, they explode, or they simmer until the next spark. And right now, the spark was still glowing. Then came the next revelation. A second video surfaced, longer and clearer than the initial grainy clips. While faces remained partially obscured, the footage revealed something far more consequential to the public. One alleged assailant appeared to be on a phone moments before King exited the building. As King stepped outside, the same individual pocketed the device and gave a subtle nod toward the others. The timing was exact, almost rehearsed. That single gesture detonated speculation. Who was on the call? Who gave the signal? No verified link tied the call or nod to any high-profile figure, but perception doesn't wait for proof. It races ahead, filling gaps with assumption. Within minutes, the clip was removed under a copyright claim. The takedown only amplified suspicion. Quick disappearances in the world of social media are read as confirmation that content is too sensitive to stay visible. Late that evening, 50 Cent posted a cryptic gym selfie with the caption, "Njai don't lie," no names, no direct mention of King or the incident. Yet the timing was impossible to ignore. Comments erupted instantly. Some saw cold indifference, a businessman continuing his routine. Others interpreted subtle acknowledgement, a coded reminder that energy, influence, and consequences in this world are real and reciprocal. Coincidence or calculated messaging? The internet chose both interpretations simultaneously. Meanwhile, T.I. broke his silence with his first direct public statement. A photo surfaced, him holding King's hand inside the hospital room. The caption read simply, "My son ain't entertainment," 5 words that landed like a hammer. Suddenly, the saga reframed itself. This wasn't viral drama or blog fodder. This was family. A father protecting his child from being reduced to content. Sympathy surged, accusations sharpened, and the optics shifted dramatically. Then came an even more incendiary claim. An anonymous legal insider allegedly told a media outlet that King had formally given a statement to authorities, identifying at least one attacker by name. If accurate, the incident had crossed into documented territory. Statements create records. Records create accountability. And paper trails don't vanish like deleted posts. The same source alleged that the identified individual had been photographed at a private industry event months prior, one attended by members of 50 Cent's extended circle. Once again, no direct proof of orders or involvement, but proximity alone can carry legal weight. Subpoenas may follow. Depositions can be demanded. Financial and communication trails could emerge. Association in these contexts can become exposure. The broader industry reacted cautiously. A prominent producer tweeted, "When pride gets mixed with youth, OG's gotta be careful. Neutral observation or subtle shade, hard to tell." Another artist posted, "Protect the next generation." No names, but the subtext was enough to fuel hours of conversation. Behind closed doors, sources suggested quiet mediation attempts were underway. Not through lawyers yet, but via mutual industry connections gauging if the temperature could be lowered before public accusations locked everyone into irreversible positions. Powerful figures understand the calculus. If unproven accusations spiral, defamation lawsuits become credible threats. But if concrete evidence emerges, witness corroboration, additional footage, phone records, tying high-profile individuals to coordination, the consequences could be explosive. Careers, brands, and alliances could fracture. Right now, the public was navigating layers of assumption atop incomplete facts. The most striking element, though, wasn't the new footage or alleged identification. It was the silence from both primary camps. 50 Cent hadn't issued a direct denial of involvement. T.I. hadn't leveled an accusation. Both were choosing their language with surgical precision, suggesting larger strategies at play behind the scenes. When men with decades of reputation and resources move carefully, it's rarely accidental. King, reportedly discharged and recovering privately, had stayed completely silent. No live-stream defiance, no emotional rant. No clapback posts, just quiet. That silence could mean following legal advice, processing trauma, or quietly preparing for what comes next. The escalation had moved beyond physical violence. Now it was about perception, documentation, and timing. New footage shifts narratives. Statements enter public record and raise accountability. A direct, on-the-record accusation could transform speculation into legal battle. And the central question looms. If this was truly random street violence, why do every new detail feel orchestrated? If orchestrated, who benefits from prolonged silence? We now enter the most dangerous phase of any high-profile conflict, the waiting phase. Pride simmers. Lawyers whisper strategies. Public narratives solidify in the absence of final facts. The next move, a subtle post, leaked document, legal action, or continued silence, could either allow the story to fade into another hip-hop rumor cycle or ignite a fire neither legacy can fully control. The internet didn't just react, it fractured. Within 24 hours of the latest footage and reports, digital timelines became battlefields. Fans weren't merely commenting. They were defending legacies, accusing rivals, dissecting every frame, debating with courtroom-like intensity. On one side, T.I.'s supporters framed the incident as generational disrespect. They reposted archival clips of him speaking about fatherhood, mentorship, and shielding family from industry pitfalls. They highlighted loyalty, protection, and his streetwise approach to the music business. The message: this wasn't about bars anymore. It was about a father refusing to let his son become collateral damage. Across the trenches, 50 Cent supporters pushed back just as hard. They called the connecting of dots reckless, demanded hard evidence over interpretation, and criticized online outrage as clout-chasing masquerading as concern. Show receipts, they demanded. Stop turning shadows into smoking guns. Two parallel realities emerged, each convinced of its moral and factual superiority. Hashtags surged. Support posts for King flooded timelines, countered by threads insisting the narrative was manufactured. Bloggers, podcasters, and influencers fueled the fire with live streams, reaction videos, and side-by-side comparisons that blurred analysis and accusation. Yet beneath the noise, a cold truth persisted. No arrests, no charges, no official statements identifying suspects or motives. The gray zone between rumor and provable fact expanded hourly, but emotional investment only intensified. This moment felt suspended, between resolution and detonation. King healed, T.I. guarded, 50 Cent strategized. The industry watched, aware that when two powerful legacies collide under this kind of scrutiny, outcomes rarely remain confined to one parking lot in Atlanta. The waiting continued, and in hip-hop, waiting is rarely neutral, it's prelude. The narrative was simple yet visceral. A son was harmed, and the energy surrounding it felt deliberate. Don't play with people's kids. That isn't rap beef, it's family. T.I. supporters leaned into this framing, reposting old clips emphasizing his role as a father and protector. The message resonated. This wasn't about diss tracks or online flexing. Real-world lines had been crossed. Meanwhile, 50 Cent's camp countered fiercely, labeling speculation as reckless and premature. No official law enforcement source had named him. No arrests. They demanded proof over assumption. "Stop tying names without facts," became their refrain. To them, this was classic clout chasing amplified by algorithms, turning shadows into smoking guns. The incident had outgrown itself. It wasn't just a late-night altercation anymore. It had become a referendum on legacy. T.I. represented an era of Atlanta dominance, lyrical, street-rooted, strategic, respected for building an empire while remaining authentic. 50 Cent represented calculated power, dominance, and media mastery. And between them, a son, caught in crossfire, became the human lens through which fans, industry, and history would parse every action and inaction. When the latest incident unfolded, observers expected chaos. What they didn't anticipate was the precision. 50 Cent emerged not as a man reacting impulsively, but as a figure representing calculation, business strategy, and unflinching control under pressure. For years, he had built a public persona that thrived on perception management, media savvy, shrewd, always 2 steps ahead. Fans weren't debating what had happened on the street that night. They were debating ideologies. Street code versus corporate warfare. Old school loyalty versus modern strategy. Generational respect versus contemporary dominance. It was no longer simply a story about violence or a personal clash. It had become a philosophical battlefield. Celebrity reactions began trickling in, each one careful, measured, almost surgical. One prominent rapper tweeted, "Protect the youth always." No name. No direct reference. Yet the timing made the statement hit like commentary. A high-profile industry executive posted, "Social media can destroy faster than facts can repair." That one struck a nerve because it acknowledged the wildfire of online discussion without assigning blame. Radio hosts, too, started analyzing the situation with unusual restraint. Is this real tension or an internet illusion? Are we watching a narrative being built in real time? The phrase "narrative being built" became a mantra in the early days of the incident's public life. Perception, it seemed, was now moving faster than confirmation, racing ahead of facts and evidence at breakneck speed. Blogs and media outlets played their roles with subtle skill. Headlines were carefully worded, walking the line between reporting and insinuation. Alleged affiliate linked to incident. Close ties questioned. Sources suggest coordination. Every headline used proximity language, words implying connections without outright accusation. In the court of public opinion, proximity is power. It doesn't matter if the association is proven, the suggestion itself becomes a seed of assumption. Repetition is the fertilizer, and once an assumption takes root, it can grow into perceived truth, shaping discussion and belief even in the absence of evidence. The tension intensified when the story reached corporate partners. Both T.I. and 50 Cent had built empires extending far beyond music. Streaming deals, alcohol brands, production partnerships, and investments required careful management of risk and optics. According to an anonymous marketing insider, at least one corporate partner quietly paused review discussions pending clarification. The word paused is telling. Corporations don't respond to pride, legacy battles, or street credibility. They respond to headlines, potential liabilities, and shareholder perception. Even a temporary uncertainty about reputation risk is enough to bring decision-making to a halt. The moment reputational risk enters a boardroom, stakes rise far beyond the original incident. Fans, meanwhile, engaged in an escalating war across social platforms. TikTok creators stitched together timeline breakdowns with dramatic music, slow-motion zooms, and edited text overlays. YouTube commentators dropped 20-minute exposés, analyzing every emoji-deleted post and cryptic story, attempting to connect dots that may never have existed. Twitter threads became speculation hubs. One viral tweet read, "Silence is strategy." Another fired back, "Silence is guilt." Interpretations multiplied, evidence remained scarce, and speculation became the de facto reality. The longer neither side issued a direct statement, the louder the conversation grew. A subtle but profound shift emerged among neutral fans. The spectacle that once entertained now triggered discomfort. "This stopped being fun," wrote one user. "Someone got hurt. This isn't content." The framing of the narrative shifted from entertainment to concern. King Harris, once a peripheral figure, became central, not as a celebrity personality, but as a young man hospitalized because of circumstances that spiraled out of control. The tone moved from spectacle to somber concern, reshaping public perception. When the audience stops treating drama as entertainment, dynamics evolve. Attention becomes caution, fandom becomes scrutiny. T.I. and 50 Cent, however, maintained measured silence. Their avoidance of direct confrontation paradoxically fueled chaos. In high-profile conflicts, when leaders don't set clear boundaries, followers rush in to fill the void with their own versions of truth. Industry insiders reportedly attempted to intervene quietly, contacting both camps and urging restraint. Once accusations circulate publicly without ironclad proof, defamation becomes a looming threat. Legal frameworks quietly hover in the background, with the potential to turn rumor into courtroom reality. If proof, phone records, witness statements, or footage showing coordinated activity, ever emerges, the situation can escalate far beyond social media. What was unfolding was not merely reactionary, it was polarization. Fans stopped debating facts and began defending identities, loyalty, pride, generational allegiance. The conflict became symbolic, representing bigger ideas: fatherhood versus power, youth versus experience, respect versus reputation. In the absence of verified information, narratives thrive. Pride mixes with loyalty, and loyalty rarely pauses for nuance. Fragility became the defining feature of the standoff. One misstep, a reckless statement, a direct accusation, or a verified link could ignite the simmering tension into a full-blown crisis. The situation was currently contained, but precariously so. Containment in high-profile disputes is rarely stable. It only takes one spark to convert simmer into an explosion. Then quietly, developments began behind the public eye. No live stream, no Instagram rant, no press conference, just paperwork, strategic, deliberate, and dangerous. Lawyers reviewed statements, investigators chased leads, advisors calculated risk. The public saw silence, the insiders saw activity. The absence of public display often masks the loudest movements. A critical update came through well-connected sources. A formal preservation request had been submitted via legal channels. Not a lawsuit, not criminal charges, but a targeted request to preserve all surveillance footage, phone records, and digital communications linked to the night of the altercation. Preservation requests are far from casual. They are deliberate measures in preparation for potential litigation. The act alone changes the dynamics instantly. Litigation opens the door to discovery. Discovery enables subpoenas, which can turn private communications into public records. Once this happens, the ripple effect extends far beyond the immediate incident. Discovery has its own calculus. If subpoenas are issued, they reach beyond alleged perpetrators. Proximity matters. Connections, communication patterns, and location data all become relevant. Even innocent adjacency can transform into legal vulnerability under scrutiny. Powerful individuals understand this calculation more than anyone. The combination of timing, contacts, and digital footprint can construct narratives that take months or years to untangle. Even without direct evidence linking major figures to the event, the proximity effect can magnify stakes and risk. Yet it is crucial to note that no confirmed legal action names 50 Cent. No criminal indictment exists. No civil complaint has been publicly verified. The gray zone remains, a space of unresolved tension. Gray zones are fertile ground for speculation, and speculation is often louder than fact. In such spaces, reputational anxiety thrives. Every comment, post, or gesture is measured against potential consequences. Industry sources indicated T.I. had shifted his approach privately. Not with anger, not with reactionary posts, but with focused, deliberate planning. Anger reacts, strategy anticipates. T.I.'s measured tone suggested preparation for a long game. Resources were gathered, moves mapped out, potential leverage identified. A patient approach signals far more danger than a heated tweet. It reflects the mindset of someone prepared to escalate if circumstances demand. Then came an unexpected, quiet development. A mutual industry contact allegedly proposed a private sit-down. No cameras, no public disclosure, a room, closed doors, a man-to-man conversation. If this meeting occurs, its impact could be immense. Miscommunication and crossed wires often fuel escalation, and a conversation allows clarification. Boundaries could be reset, intentions clarified, and escalation potentially avoided. But if the meeting leaves either party feeling disrespected or unheard, the following chapter will be deliberate. And deliberate moves in this context rarely remain subtle. Meanwhile, King Harris remained entirely absent from public discourse. No posts, no interviews, no statements. Such silence is intentional. Legal counsel almost certainly advises restraint, ensuring public commentary does not aggravate potential litigation. In high-profile disputes, restraint is a defensive tool. Every word, post, or gesture becomes weighed against courtroom consequences. The story remains precariously alive due to the persistent rumor of additional footage. An anonymous journalist hinted at unreleased material, unverified but suggested to exist. This is the kind of whisper that keeps tension taut. If footage emerges showing coordination, the narrative shifts dramatically. If it depicts randomness, speculation collapses. If it confirms planned actions or signals between parties, the online and industry storm can escalate exponentially. Rumor or reality, the possibility keeps observers on edge, and it sustains a volatile, suspenseful environment. The restraint exhibited by 50 Cent and T.I. is central to the current dynamic. Neither has publicly accused the other. Neither has issued detailed denials or clarifications tied to specific events. The door remains wide open for reconciliation, legal escalation, or continued silence. Each pathway carries immense consequences. Reconciliation could reset reputations. Litigation could expose hidden connections. Silence could perpetuate uncertainty, allowing public perception to spiral unchecked. Online commentary continues to evolve, with fans and observers dissecting every micro-interaction. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter serve as amplifiers, each platform adding layers of interpretation. Commentary ranges from fan analysis to speculation bordering on investigative journalism. Symbols, emojis, past posts, deleted content, all are pieced together to construct stories with or without factual basis. Social media has become an accelerant, transforming perception into a real-world driver of actio. And at the same time, corporate and investor attention adds another layer of pressure. Every partnership, endorsement, or deal is vulnerable to association. Brands prioritize stability over heroics. The calculus is simple. Reputational exposure can translate into financial loss. Pause, delay, or cautious observation becomes a strategic choice in response to public uncertainty. Even in the absence of official charges, perception alone can influence business decisions. The longer the gray zone persists, the more entrenched narratives become. Loyalty and pride, amplified by social media, solidify assumptions. Perception hardens into belief. In the absence of concrete evidence, interpretation fills the vacuum. The result is polarization, a state where discourse moves beyond facts and into identity. Fans defend ideologies and affiliations rather than truths. Once personal identity becomes entwined with a narrative, compromise becomes nearly impossible. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, legal frameworks loom. Preservation requests, potential subpoenas, and the specter of discovery place every move under scrutiny. Even innocent actions can take on significance. Lawyers and advisors calculate risk meticulously, understanding that any public misstep could carry consequences far beyond the digital realm. When legal preparation intersects with celebrity influence and social perception, tension escalates exponentially. The situation is dynamic. One day's silence could be tomorrow's revelation. One unverified leak could reshape interpretation. One deliberate move in private meetings could prevent or trigger escalation. Every moment carries weight, and the margin for error is infinitesimal. In the world of high-profile personalities, where decades of reputation hang in the balance, the stakes extend far beyond immediate drama. Outcomes evolve, scar, and occasionally explode. In conclusion, what appears at first glance as a social media feud or celebrity altercation is actually a complex interplay of reputation, strategy, and perception. Fans debate ideologies. Industry players weigh financial and legal risks. Lawyers maneuver in silence. Media crafts proximity-based narratives. And in the center of it all, the gray zone remains unresolved, dangerous, and potent. The fuse continues to burn. Any movement, subtle or explosive, can change the entire landscape. Until verified evidence, official statements, or legal filings emerge, the story will continue to evolve unpredictably, leaving fans, industry insiders, and corporate partners alike on edge, constantly recalculating the stakes.